Welcome into another edition of the Gig'em 24/7 Sports Podcast. I am Brian. I'm Andrew Hattersley, joined as always by Brian Baroni. I know we're hitting the end of the June now. It
One
feels
of
like
those weeks for sure.
yeah, I know. We just spent so much time together the last couple of weeks down at the Texas A&M camps. We just decided to switch people, and we should try that one time. You'll take all the Dallas kids. I'll take all the Houston kids, and we'll tell everybody we're the other person.
There we go.
And see how that works. But joined by Brian Peroni. Brian, how's everything going? How was your weekend getting back around Houston?
Oh, not bad at all. I mean, it was a fun little 2 weeks in College Station with all the camps. Every year, I mean, you and I talk about that. Those camps are absolutely loaded. The last day this week, that Friday, had kids from all over the country. We're sitting there. Those kids are registering. It's like 5-star after 5-star. Top 100 kids are walking up, and we're just trying to catch them all. I think we even, missed some. It was just, crazy. So, yeah, like Kylan Jackson, one of A&M's top targets and the 23 class. I had no idea he was there, and he was joking with us when I finally saw him. Hey, yeah, I saw you when I walked in, man. I was wondering why you didn't talk to me. Like,
Yeah.
we were trying
Thanks
to catch so many kids. So
thanks for the help. Like you could have stuck around just to say hi. Sharif Denson too. We were expecting him to come in earlier in the week, and during the one-on-one session, kind of look over and you're like, hey, there's Sharif Denson. He did end up making it in, so he ended up
yeah, that's
staying the
right. Yeah,
weekend
you
as
just end
well.
up recognizing. You're like, that kid looks familiar. Oh yeah, he's the one we've been waiting on
Yeah.
covering all week. Yeah, and same with Kylan Jackson. At first, I mean, I've met Kylan a ton of times. I went out to his game last year, and I'm sitting there, and I was like, that's a good rep. That's a big kid there at safety. I was like, hey man, where are you from? He said Zachary. I was like, I'm an idiot. I was like, what's up, Kylan? I had no idea that you showed up. So
Yeah, it's like that old, who's the 5 stars rolling up? What school do you go? Oh, okay, I know you.
yeah, yeah.
But no, it was an absolutely loaded weekend. Obviously, Zena Umezulu made it in as well with Caleb Mitchell Irving. It was just one after the other for like an hour. I feel like it was from like that 8:30 to 9:30 stretch.
Yeah.
Where just one after the other. We didn't have time to put them on Twitter. It was just one after the other on the board, and kind of led into a huge recruiting weekend as well for A&M. 11 official visitors on campus, including Chendavian Bradley, Adam Hopkins, Caleb Jackson, Connor Strode, Justin Jefferson, TJ Shanahan, just to name a few. Dante Moore was on campus as an unofficial visitor as well. Tyler White, Paul Mubenga, Anthony Evans, Marvin Burks, all on campus. So it was just a huge weekend, and a lot of the kids, at least I spoke to, really talked about that, about just seeing how many kids were on campus, and getting that feeling for how A&M is just recruiting at such a high level. A lot of kids brought it up, starting with there were a couple big official visitors on campus that are getting closer to decisions, and one of the big ones I think to start off with is Connor Stroh, and interestingly enough, came into camp earlier in the week. I believe that was Wednesday. He came into
Yeah,
camp,
we saw him on Wednesday.
worked at both left tackle and left guard, and then came back for his official visit on from Friday to Sunday, and really had a lot of good things to say coming out of the weekend. Said it was he feels like him and Texas A&M are in a really good spot, and thought particularly noteworthy was his meeting with Jimbo Fisher on Sunday. Jimbo Fisher said, A&M really wants to have him in the class, and gave him a lot of props for coming to camp on the Wednesday. He said he showed off his competitiveness and wanting to work and just being willing to do it. And he received a lot of praise from a lot of the coaching staff about just what he showed during the week. And for me, I think he becomes a very realistic target now in the class. We've talked about it before that if A&M ended up pushing for him, things would certainly become very interesting. For me, he's a guy to very realistically look at now in the offensive line class. He's got one official visit left to Texas, and Texas has obviously been on him for a while, but I think A&M is certainly in this race now.
No, for sure. And I mean, we talked about him coming to camp. Not only is he a rising senior that came to camp, I mean, he's got offers from most of the SEC. He had just come off an official visit to Arkansas. So he's got the Arkansas official visit that he just finished Sunday. He's got the A&M one that he's starting on Friday. And on Wednesday, he decided to come and camp at A&M. And that really shows how interested he he is in the school. And, his performance, a little up and down at times. He played both tackle and guard during one-on-ones. Looked good at tackle, looked a lot better at guard. And, I know we've talked about that. That's probably his likely future position. But, the one thing, I heard the current players that were working with him, they were talking about once he gets, he's so strong. I mean, he's 6'6" and a half, 345, and incredibly strong. They said once he gets locked on a guy, that guy's not going anywhere. They were talking about pass pro. Pass pro, you're supposed to give up ground. I mean, they're taught to give up ground. He was, but they said they were talking about his punch being so strong that the defender actually went backwards, and that doesn't happen in pass pro. So, I can see after that I've seen him in person before, but that was, one of the better performances I've seen him at. So I can see after that why, schools are so interested. It's going to be, like I said, he plays tackle now. He wants to play tackle, but probably an interior guy. But, if you can just harness that power and that strength, I mean, that's especially in the SEC going against big old defensive tackles, 330, 340-pound kids every week. I mean, that's pretty valuable.
And and to your point, I mean, he just packs such a punch, and there's tools there to work with. And I think there's still, I think he's still got another gear that he'll be able to get to. If he's able to maybe drop like a little bit of weight, and just fine tune his frame. I think he's got all the tools in the world to be a really good offensive lineman. Maybe with a year in a strength and conditioning program, and I think his mindset really clicks well with Steve Addazio. We really talked about that, about what's it like working with Steve Addazio. You and I have been out there quite a bit and seen, it's not for everybody. I mean, he's a really, really intense guy.
I love it because so people, if they don't realize what's going on, is there are 3-day campers. So these kids sign up, they stay overnight. Most of them, are not prospects. They just want to have fun at camp. And then mixed in with that, each of the 4 sessions of the 3-day camp, there are, the 1 session campers and those big guys. But those 3-day campers are out there that whole time. And he's not letting up on them either. I mean, these kids are exhausted. It's 100 degrees outside. They're on the turf over there. And I mean, some of them are like in 8th grade. And he's railing to them like they're getting the experience of being a college offensive lineman. And, at the time they're like, what is going on? What do we pay here to do? But they probably appreciate it. He's not over there just babying them like he could. It's funny. I think maybe he would baby him if he was able to, but I don't think he's got an off switch. And it's
I was about to say, I think he's got one switch that he goes at, and it is up here all the time. And you better meet him up here. Otherwise it's going to be a really, really long day, especially if it's over 100 degrees on that turf. And if you're not set up in drills right, you are in for a really, really long day. If you can do one thing right to get on Steve Addazio's good terms, it's hustle between drills, because I saw the amount of kids that got chewed out, not hustling between drills and not.
I almost understand it though. They're there for all 4 of those sessions, and they're on the hottest part of the field because those O linemen, they only go inside at the very end for one-on-ones, and they're on the only turf out there. I mean, it's so hot. And like I said, these are like 8th grade kids that haven't, junior high doesn't even have spring football, so they're just out there. They're like they were playing video games the night before, and now they're having to do all that. So it's pretty awesome.
Not even quite sure what's hit them, and the amount of time they have to stay in their stances and work on their stances.
Oh yeah,
and stay in some of the drills. I mean, it is.
Well, he was doing that to the current players as well. It was Remington Strickland was out there working with them, and Josh Bankhead
was out.
Yeah, but Remington Strickland and Josh Bankhead were the main 2 that were actually working like in drills and everything. Yeah. And there was one where they were just working on their punch with the bags, and he's like, hold it. You got to hold it in. And Remington was the one that was showing him how to do it. And I see him, I think Addazio just messing with him because Remington is jacked. And I see him, he's pushing it. Absolutely. And his arms just start shaking. And he's just like, and I think the kids behind him eyes get real big because they're like, wait, if this D1 player can't hold it in for as long as we're supposed to, how am I? And like I said, I think Addazio just messing with him.
What am I supposed to do? And I watched him even with Michael Uini was another guy that was there, and Caden Jones as well. Just they were doing the medicine ball punch, working on their punches, and they seemed fine. It was the first rep of the drill. They were still getting the drill down. and he was like, "Switch out! I can't watch this anymore. You're taking too long to get between the drills. We can't have take this time between drills. You switch out. Next group going in." And the kids were kind of all looking around, thinking, "I thought we were going pretty fast, but there's another level that you need to hit." And so, Connor Stroh loved it. He said, I know he's really hard nosed, really tough to work with, but it's because he wants you to be better. And so that's, the kids that take it the right way, I think take it and knowing that he's coming from the right place and he's coming from a place that he wants to make you better and push you and all that.
Oh no, we heard him talking about it. They say off the field, off the field, he's a player's coach. They were saying he's easy to approach, great guy. So it takes a little different, and there's no right or wrong approach about coaching, but it is different than Josh Henson than what we've seen out there. So I think it took some guys on the team, a little bit just to adjust from, one style to another. But I think at least off the field, everybody, everybody seems to really appreciate him.
They're being held to a standard. They know what the standard is that they have to meet, and I think a lot of guys appreciate just how rigid the structure is and what sort of standard they're setting. So I think the reviews coming out of from working with Steve Addazio and just even guys like Jordan Spasovich-Moko and Trey Zune and guys like that got to talk to the visitors this week and talked about how much they love working with Steve Addazio. So switching gears to the skill position, one guy we were kind of watching closely to see what happens this weekend was Adam Hopkins. Ended up coming on his official visit to Texas A&M, and I think it just and along with Anthony Evans, which kind of the two receiver options that came in this weekend. And I think A&M is. I think what the big theme coming out of this weekend is A&M is still sorting through their wide receiver board. I don't think there's some surefire I think takes like obviously Hakeem Williams or Jonte Cook. They would love to have those two guys. I think Andy Jean fits into that category as well, with prioritizing speed. And Anthony Evans is a guy I know you had a chance to catch up with as well. Where do you think A&M kind of sits coming out of this weekend for Anthony Evans?
Well, it's going to be interesting with the wide receivers. Because not that long ago in this cycle, they've been after Jonte Cook. He's been the main one for a long time, but it looked like A&M might, have to end up with some lower ranked guys. I think A&M fans and his reporters have gotten spoiled with, covering 5 stars. But this receiver group could end up like the defensive line group from last year. We've talked about that before. I mean, they're in on so many people like Zachariah Branch, coming this coming weekend, top receiver in the country, committed to USC. Was just at USC this past weekend, and he's got an official. So A&M is having a chance to be really particular at receiver this year. We got a number 3, either 3 or 4 guys in the class. So with not a huge class, they need to be really careful. So Adam Hopkins was a guy coming in that we thought, might be on commit watch. Had a great visit, but now says he's going to take 2 or 3 more officials. And I think it's probably A&M just wanting to slow things down a little bit. Because like you said, Hakeem Williams, who came again last week, for an unofficial, I think he got there Friday, and I don't think he left until Tuesday. Yeah, I don't think he left until Tuesday. So, shows he's really interested. He'll be back probably for the barbecue. He'll be back for an official. Jonte Cook is still a huge target. Then you got, this weekend, I think there's a pair of receivers coming in. And hold on, I got it. I mean, and Zachariah Branch and Tyler Williams, who's a top 150 kid out of Florida. Brandon Ennis, 5-star. He's probably a bit of a long shot, but he did include A&M in his final 6 this week. So, they're able to be really careful. And while I've heard several times that Jimbo Fisher is a big fan of Adam Hopkins, I think probably they just had that talk. Hey, we're not really ready to take anybody just yet. And same thing with Anthony Evans. I mean, he wasn't ready to commit anyway, but when he had that meeting, A&M told him they loved him, but they know he's not going to commit. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens really after, I would say usually after June when it becomes a dead period again, but maybe after the pool party. I think we'll probably know a lot more by then, like, hey, who are the true heavy A&M leans? I would say Hakeem Williams is a very good bet to end up in this class.
Yeah.
Jonte Cook, A&M has as good a shot as anybody. So then, if those two happen, who fills the final 1 or 2 spots? They can be really picky.
Yeah, I think I agree with you completely. I mean, it's going to be who do they bring in for that pool party? Who do they kind of push for? And um, speaking of the defensive line, I think it's important to remember too. There were guys that were options like where does Raymond Cottrell fit into the equation? He
Oh yeah,
obviously
for
took
sure.
an
The
official
Georgia
visit
commit.
earlier this
Yeah.
month. Where does he fit into the equation as well? And so, I think there's a lot of options, but I think it puts A&M in a good spot. You mentioned Jonte Cook. There's obviously been a lot of Texas buzz around Jonte Cook, as there has been for a while. But A&M's kind of at a point, not to sound greedy or anything, but if they don't get Jonte Cook, they've got other options. It's not just one guy or bust. They've built up.
So Adam Hopkins is really, really good, and so obviously Jimbo likes him for a reason. So McCamp, like if you have a guy like that wanting to commit, I mean that's a huge luxury. This is not the same A&M recruiting as even 3 years ago, yet less 5 or 6 years ago. So yeah, they love Jonte Cook. They want Jonte Cook in the class, but yeah, it's not the end of the world if he doesn't end up. It's sort of like Ruben Owens, running back. Yeah, they'd love Ruben Owens, and I don't think that one's over just yet. Maybe he ends up in Louisville, but it's not over just yet. But even without Ruben Owens, there are options. They will get a really good running back in this class. So
yeah, switch kind of touching on that Ruben Owens. Makes a commitment this weekend to Louisville.
Louisville. We went over this, man.
We went
Louisville.
Over this,
Louisville. They get mad. They don't want to Louisville.
They don't want to. Yeah, I'm gonna have them in my messages later about that. But he makes his commitment this weekend. Big get for them. Let's give them major props on the class.
Wait, hold on. You said this weekend. We're filming this on Tuesday. You said this weekend. How many times we got to go over this on the board? We got to have these arguments. That's not this weekend. That's this past weekend. It's Tuesday, man. When you say this weekend, that's why I never say this weekend because what I say this coming weekend, this past weekend, this weekend. Come on, you're making it sound like he's making a commitment in the future. It was this past weekend. This is a bit of an inside joke for people on the site, but also we're
going to get into the time zones and this.
Yes, it's something in real life. Just if you're not a subscriber on the board, just know Mountain Time doesn't exist, and I'll let everybody know that, and I'll stick to that. But okay, sorry. So Ruben
here
Owens
I am. The one time
committed to Louisville this past weekend.
No, yeah. No, the one time I used Mountain Time, I got it wrong, of course. So sorry about that. But yep. So he's heading over to the Cardinals, and they built quite a nice class up with Pierce Clarkson, obviously, and DeAndre Moore in the class as well. I agree with you. I don't think this one's necessarily over yet. I think there's going to be several. It wouldn't be a shock at all to see him on campus.
You and I have said this. I mean, we've said this on the board. We've said this on this show. There are going to be roller coasters with him, and it is not going to be over. Yeah. And, it's just, he got caught up before when he committed to Texas. That was like a decision spur of the moment. And, he ended up decommitting. And who knows if he decommits from Louisville and what happens there. But he is definitely going to keep talking to other schools. A&M is going to keep pursuing him. A&M loves him. They love him. They love Cedric Baxter. They really like Caleb Jackson, who was in town this past weekend. So they're not going to let up, and Texas is not going to let up on Ruben Owens. TCU's not going to let up. So I mean, it's going to be interesting. But yeah, it's not. I think he tweeted out, "I'm not taking any more visits." It's like we'll see. We'll see what happens. And that's not a shot. That's not a shot at Ruben. It's just they're easy to take. You can drive to Austin from El Campo. You can drive to College Station. It's an easy visit. These schools are going to push, so I think we will see some visits.
Yeah, and think about just looking at Calvin Banks last year. For the longest time, it was, I'm not going to take any visits. I'm not going to take any visits. And then once you start getting closer and closer to signing day, schools start pushing harder and harder. And so, and there's been some, the last couple of weeks, people were kind of trying to figure out if the TCU buzz that was coming.
It's a different buzz.
And then Louisville kind of took the momentum. So I think schools are going to keep pushing. But again, A&M's got other guys. Caleb Jackson is a guy that they really, really like and would love to have in the class.
That's going to be an interesting battle with with in-state LSU, not just in-state. He's from Baton Rouge, so
Yeah.
in-town LSU. They had him for an unofficial visit right before he made it to College Station for his official. So that's going to be a really interesting one to watch because he is a guy that A&M really likes.
Yeah, they do. And obviously Cedric Baxter is scheduled to come in this weekend, or this week actually, June 20th, I believe. So for an unofficial visit. And so, A&M will get their chance to kind of make an impression on him and get him back on campus. And there's a ton of options and a ton of different directions they could go. And so and also they've recruited so well at the running back position the last couple of weeks, past couple of cycles, obviously, that they're in a good spot. They're trying to continue to add depth to that room and continue to add guys to be able to turn to. But I think they'll end up coming away with somebody good. If Owens sticks with this commitment, then A&M will kind of pivot to some other options. But it's going to be fascinating to follow that one. I think it definitely caught some people by surprise. I think. I think you just have to, like you and I have talked about, you have to be ready for some twists and turns in that recruitment. And I don't think any school would necessarily say it's over until signing day. So
no, you'd rather be in Louisville's position having him committed, but
exactly.
No, I promise you, no matter what he's telling them or saying in public, they're still sweating things, and they will be until till that signature comes across the dotted line. He's been a priority target for A&M since his freshman year, though. He's got a good rapport with Tommy Robinson. So that's going to be, he's not just going to stop talking to Tommy Robinson all of a sudden overnight. So that one's A&M will be in that one.
Yeah, no doubt. Zero doubt on that one. And then another one another big, got a big commitment coming up later this month. With Jaden Rashada is set to announce his commitment.
I would almost say this coming weekend. I think
this coming weekend. Yeah,
he's announcing.
He's going to take one more official visit to Miami. And I think the quarterback board is going to become a little clearer this weekend, because this past weekend A&M had Dante Moore in town for an unofficial visit. Had good things to say coming out of the visit about his conversations with Daryl Dickey and Jimbo Fisher. I think A&M probably needs to get him back on campus again to really have a chance in that race. And it's gonna be interesting to see what Jaden Rashada ends up doing this past weekend, obviously, or this upcoming weekend. We talked about Florida and A&M being the two schools that are kind of front and center there. Now Miami's is a school that drew buzz earlier this year that we talked about, and getting him back on campus before his decision is a big deal for them. So we'll see where it ends up going.
Yeah. So last week on the same thing, we talked about, hey, he's got a decision coming up this coming weekend. He pushed it back. And I guess now we know one of the reasons is the Miami trip. Miami took a QB on Monday from a mid 3-star, Emory Williams, an in-state kid. I don't think they would have any problem taking a second QB, and I don't think that's a kid that Jaden Rashada would have a problem being in the class with. Still seems like an A&M Florida battle, but last minute trips like this always have a potential to throw to throw a wrench in the plans. I mean, who knows? So yeah, we'll find out on Sunday. He's committing on CBS Sports HQ, so we'll find out on Sunday where he's going. But Florida has seemingly taken a bit of a lead as of late. I would probably put them as the betting favorite, but A&M definitely still in it. And again, if A&M does not end up with him or Dante Moore, we got to watch Austin Novosad. It's getting to that time of they need to make a decision on him. And it's not a for sure, yes, he's from an Aggie family. It's not a for sure that he would flip from Baylor, as he's, Ohio State is also pushing now. We had that visit. But if they are going to do it, it has to happen really soon. So maybe after the Rashada domino falls, they got to evaluate, hey, where do we stand with Dante Moore? Do we offer Austin Novosad? Because they really do. They like Austin Novosad a whole lot. It's just, they're in on these two other guys. So that's the thing to watch on Sunday. If things don't go A&M's direction, do they call him?
Yeah, and that's the thing too is Austin Novosad's coming off a visit to Baylor as well, I believe this past weekend, and spoke with Steve Wiltfong that, he's kind of been to Ohio State and he's kind of been to Baylor now. And so it's kind of getting to a point where he needs to sit down as well and make a decision. So you're right. I mean, depending on what Jaden Rashada does on Sunday, A&M really needs to make a decision when it comes to Austin Novosad as well, because it seems like he's kind of getting to the point where he's looking at Baylor, he's looking at Ohio State, and I don't think it's certainly not out of the question A&M could get into the mix for that one, but it does need to happen soon. I completely agree. It's going to be it's really coming to a kind of a key point over the next couple of weeks, and that's not to say there's not other quarterback dominoes that could.
But Rashada's the one. QBs are dominoes every year. There's 2 or 3 different cycles, and Rashada is going to start one. He's going to start a domino, and it's going to cause, like, let's say, hypothetically, he commits to Florida. Then it's going to say, well, A&M, what are they going to do? Let's say A&M offers Novosad. This is all, and he flips. Then Baylor's going to need somebody. So one QB can start those dominoes that can end up, end up with kids that don't even have offers now from schools getting an offer and then ending up committing. I know we were talking with some of the QBs at camp about that. Like, hey, just watch what happens in the next couple of weeks, because this is that time of year after the June official visits are over that, even more QBs start coming off the board. And when that happens, more offers go out. Every school, schools that don't land kids are going to be, looking to see, hey, who's next in line.
Yeah, you can always pivot, and it's going to go right down the list. We talked about it. It's not just going to be a ripple effect on P5 guys. It's going to be a ripple effect right down to the G5 level, and you wouldn't think so, but when guys start falling, that's just how it goes. So it's gonna be really interesting, and I think there's gonna be a lot more answers in the next 2 weeks, and where A&M kind of goes from there. So aside from this past weekend, there was also a loaded camp that we're going to talk about after the break, with a lot of big names in town working out and watching. We'll be back right after a quick break. Welcome back to the Gig'em 24/7 Sports Podcast. I am Andrew Hattersley, joined again by Brian Perroni. Brian, we had kind of commented last week that there was a couple big names to know Wednesday. Thursday, Micah Hudson arrived in the afternoon, and a couple offers every day went out. But we had heard on Thursday, hey, Friday is going to be a big day. There's going to be a lot of huge names in town. I don't think we could have quite expected how big it was going to be. It started in the morning. I walked up and you were already talking to T.A. Cunningham.
Yeah, so the number 5 player in the country, number 5 player in the country for 2024 is in town. And yeah, just like walks up like, oh yeah, I'm a 5-star, whatever. I mean, he didn't say that, but it's that any other year, well, before last year, that would have been like huge news. And, I posted on the board, hey, yeah, T.A. Cunningham's here to watch, number 5 player in the country. People barely even bat an eye, it's like a kid from out of state. And then Micah Hudson, a 5-star, hardly anybody ever came on the afternoon sessions. He shows up in the afternoon on Thursday because he had a morning workout at his school. Another 5-star, oh, okay, cool, that's nice. It's just sort of crazy, one, showing the amount of talent, but also, A&M fans have a luxury of not really, having to think it's a big deal anymore when these names show up.
And Brian Wingo as well. So I mean, 2 top 10 players in the 2024 class on campus last week, and DJ Lagway is coming off a visit to A&M as well. And that was a big one. I mean, I think A&M just continues to make a really big impression on him. I talked with him last Wednesday. Last Tuesday, I believe, was when his visit to A&M, and he just talked about getting to have more really, really good conversations with Daryl Dickey. A&M let him know what's kind of been obvious over the last couple of months that he seems to be the top quarterback
Oh, yeah.
target in the 2024 class, and let them know that he certainly felt the same way about A&M, that they were one of the top programs in there. Clemson's in the mix for him. Oklahoma's in the mix. He's going to take a visit shortly to Florida.
Also, well, there's a development with him that A&M fans may not have noticed. Willis was one of the final teams to qualify for this coming weekend state 7-on-7 tournament. And where is that tournament? It's in College Station. Now, it's not on campus like it used to be. It's at Veterans Park across Highway 6. But since it's not during a dead period, you can bet that A&M is going to work really hard to get Lagway to drive the 1.5 miles over to campus. And I can almost guarantee you that he'll be there yet again. He'll be there for the pool party. He'll be there for a bunch of games. He likes A&M for sure.
He kind of laughed about it when we talked about, you're going to get back to A&M. And he said, yeah, I'm going to be back for the pool party. And then I'm going to be back for at least 3 to 4 games of the year. And
I know Willis is an easy drive. Just down 105. I mean, it's like an hour maybe just down 105. So, he's going to be there a lot.
And, I think he was kind of also appreciative of not just him being able to come, but bring a lot of his teammates with. And that A&M was, wanted to look at some of the younger players, some 2025 kids and all that. And so to be able to do that visit with him, it's just kind of when you're on campus so much, to be able to do it with friends. And I think was a good way of doing that. Zena Umeozulu was in town as well, and Caleb Mitchell-Irving. Now Zena was originally not going to work out, and then
neither was Caleb. Neither of them had shoes.
Caleb and all of Terry Price kind of said, "Why don't you go through a couple drills?" And then the competitive juices got. That's why on the board I put he wasn't planning to work out because that's what Zena kind of said going into the day. And then I remember asking you, did Zena really just go through everything? And you're like, yep, every single drill.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It was Trades Green too, the big tight end, national top 50 tight end from Louisiana was not either. And then so he had a little minor injury, but he went through everything. Last week, Akeem Williams, was not planning to really do anything. And then he ends up working out with the current players, catching passes with Moose Muhammad and Devin Price. He look over like, wait, was that's he was just here on an unofficial. So yeah, these guys do get ultra competitive, and they see things going on. They're like, oh, I can do better than that. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to watch. Big name guys that aren't afraid to compete.
No doubt. And Ryan Wingo, understandable. He was coming off. I mean, that poor guy had to be up at 6 a.m. for every visit that he had to go on. And
he had come from that big tournament in Vegas to OU to A&M, and it was headed to Baylor and Texas after that. So yeah, he didn't work out, but I'm not going to hold that against him at all.
Yeah, from somebody who's not a morning person, I can understand him having to wake up at 6 a.m. to get to all these places. I can certainly understand that, but just. And one of the guys that stole the show, I know you were watching. I was kind of watching a lot of the receivers and cornerbacks and all that. One of the guys who actually stole the show that day was Brian Robinson. Talk about what you kind of saw from him. His recruitment is really picking up now. Obviously picked up, I think, Georgia last week and then A&M the day after. And I don't think he lost a rep in the time that he was there.
No, I mean 6'4", 250 or so kid from Ohio. He's an edge, even at that size already. I mean, an edge, and just was sort of unstoppable. And so Jimbo Fisher has the ultimate call when it comes to offers. And, and so coaches aren't really, unless Jimbo walks over to him during camp and offers on the spot, coaches aren't offering during camp. They go in. But it was obvious after maybe 4 minutes of camp, hey, that kid's going to be offered. And, as soon as he meets with Jimbo after, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, he was just that good. Yeah, he did not lose a rep that I saw or that I remember. He even moved inside some and just sort of fits that mold that A&M likes. And the defense linemen, those big defense linemen are also crazy athletic.
No doubt. And he was going up, they had some big names in there. Michael Uini, obviously, who picked up an offer. I was just taken, blown away with. And I know we were talking with a defensive line coach from the area who was like, who is that kid right there? Who do I need to know? And we're like, oh, that's Michael Uini. And he was like, how have I not heard about this kid before. And I think that was the reaction of a lot of college coaches when they kind of saw his length and his frame this
Yeah,
season was
I
just
think
who is that kid?
anybody who stopped by Copper's Cove offered him. And we were joking. Tony Johnson just took the job, and he said his first day, he had tweeted, he goes, "Man, I'm sitting in my office, and this kid pops his head in. He's 6'7", 290." And I asked, "What grade are you in?" He says, "Sophomore." He's like, "Yeah, you should probably get to know him." Right there, I mean, I made him a profile right then. I was like, "This is a dude to know." And then, yeah,
Yeah.
seems like all the coaches found him this spring. A&M offered, Bam offered, Texas offered, a bunch of offers already, and he looked the part for sure.
He does, and it's just his frame. I know he's probably still got a lot to learn, and you can kind of see you can kind of see that going through drills. But his frame is just you can just see that guy's got the potential to develop into just an elite offensive tackle. Caden Jones is the same way. He's got some work to do. He's very raw, obviously, as well, but has the frame. Looks like he's already put on a little bit of muscle.
Coach his size, and his length. I mean,
That's
with this year being so hard to find offensive tackles, I see why Caden Jones has a bunch of offers after seeing him in person.
And that's another guy that kind of snuck in quietly during
I thought he was the defense. I thought it was Keyshawn Shepard from Tennessee, the defensive lineman, and then why are the offensive line coaches talking to him? It's like, oh, it's Caden Jones. So yeah. I don't know how a dude that big snuck in 6'7", 300 pounds, but yeah, he did for sure.
He did, and among the other stand, obviously Andre Thompson was back in town, a 2024 wide receiver. Just has speed for days, and obviously again looked really impressive. And again looking at the defensive backs, Sharice Dempson obviously was out there working out and looked really good. And
so that day had 9 new offers go out. The most that had gone out at any camp before that. Any day before that was 3. It had been 2 or 3 every single day, and then there were 9 new ones that went out. So, and there were also a bunch of kids with offers. But yeah, I mean, Jamie French, whose brother is like Pitt's all-time leading receiver, but 2025 kid from Jacksonville had a great day, was offered. A couple QBs, Beckham Kritza, when he walked up, I thought he might be a tight end. Big kid from Boulder, Colorado, 2025 kid. He threw for over 3,000 yards this year. Left with an offer. They offered another QB, Michael Tollefson out of San Juan Capistrano in California. Yeah, just like, I mean, these are kids that I didn't even necessarily see all of them. Emmett Mosley's younger brother, who is 2026, Trent Mosley, he was offered. I didn't even see him just because there were so many players out there. It was hard to even keep up. And, that kid's good, and you're trying to figure out who it is. And then you see, then another amazing catch or another amazing breakup. Like, it was just, that camp this year looked like how almost every camp looked last year.
No doubt. And, it was just one after the other. And, another interesting offer that went out last week was Jordan Pride, the Florida State commit. He was on town for actually a couple days. He's another one we can add to the tracker. He got the golf cart treatment the day after his offer. He was in the golf cart with Jimbo Fisher, kind of spent.
We got to keep him. We got to add him to the list. See if they land.
Got to add him to the list of the golf cart tracker. He was another guy who he picked up an offer on during Thursday's camp, and I believe Friday hung around for a little bit
for Friday to watch.
To kind of talk more with Jimbo Fisher, and he's an interesting name because he actually worked the first part of the camp at corner. Thought this is a guy with good length. He's actually rated as he's actually projects as a safety, but was able to slide down and play pretty well at corner. Obviously earned an offer from A&M at the camp, but that versatility I think was kind of noteworthy. Broke a couple passes, looked pretty fluid against what was, I think, the strength of Thursday was really at the receiver position. So there were some good matchups there. And he really performed well. And so that's going to be an interesting name to kind of keep an eye. It's obviously very early for them, still in the 2024 class. But
Florida State already hates A&M. If A&M, that kid's already been committed for a year. He committed if he just finished his sophomore year, he committed as a freshman. He's been committed for a year. And if he ends up at A&M, like Florida State and A&M need to play on the field sometime soon. I don't think they have since the Kickoff Classic in, let me see, that would have been 1998. I think that was the last time they played. So, they need to play on the field, the Jimbo battle.
Need to get that on the field for sure. Just even in a bowl game. Even that would be fun just to get him in a bowl game of
Oh, for
some
sure.
sort. But it's one of those things. A&M's just going to keep plugging away, and that's when I was like, okay, he's in the card. That'll be a guy to keep an eye on for the tracker. And I think just getting to catch up with him for a few minutes, seemed to really enjoy his time over at A&M and meeting the coaching staff and getting his first look. So wouldn't be a shock to get him back, to see him back on campus at some point as well. But another strong month of camps, and now A&M kind of turns their attention. There's a dead period coming up, and just at the end of this week on Sunday, and so we're going to start to see kids kind of narrow in on decisions and look ahead to deciding ahead of their senior year. And so July is certainly not going to be quiet. SEC Media Days are coming up as well. So
are there any storylines at SEC Media Days you think we'll be talking about?
I don't think so. Are there?
Yeah.
Like, we need.
Although I guess it does help. They
already.
Yeah, I guess it helps that they did have the spring meetings or whatever they're called already, but there weren't nearly as many medias will be there. So I think we might see some Jimbo Nick Saban questions.
And CBS Sports had a thing the other day of top 5 revenge games for 2022. Now, the one I got a chuckle out of on that was Kansas and Texas being on there. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah. That's it. So obviously the Kansas Texas thing, but with A&M and Bama, I mean that would have been a crazy storyline even without the whole Nick Saban. They bought every player on the team, Jimbo Fisher, his character, selling Saban's character. So, oh man, I can't wait till that day. That's going to be just, that weekend is going, not the weekend of the game is going to be nuts. Almost game day is almost assuredly going to be in town, as well as probably every national media member that there is. So.
Oh yeah, just the lead up to that week on the Monday press conferences is going to be great because both coaches are going to want to keep the focus on the game and not really talk about it. Yeah. Every question's going to.
We'll see which players. The players that are going to be available it's going to be the starting QB, whoever that is, but that's a guy that Jimbo's going to trust and not say anything dumb. It'll be Chase Lane. I can almost guarantee, because Chase is not going to. And Anaya Smith. Those will probably be the 3 that we get. Maybe a defender. Maybe Devon
Achane. He's not really going to say anything.
But it's good. Yes, it's definitely going to be guys. There's all right, who do I know is not going to be baited into bulletin board material.
This is when we need, because I know we joked about this a couple of years ago. This is the week we need Carson Green back on campus, because he was always good for a good.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe we'll call up Leon O'Neal and just get some. I know he's not on the team, but we'll get some Leon O'Neal quotes. Ahead of the game this year. So
he will absolutely, I'm sure, be more than willing to do that. We should just get the, if they're not going to bring the good quote guys up, we'll bring them up on the side. We'll bring Leon O'Neal, we'll bring Carson Green on. Make that a must-watch podcast. They're just having Leon O'Neal and Carson Green sharing their thoughts. But yeah, no, it's going to be, they're going to continue to get asked about it, and it's going to be interesting. And who knows what else comes up, because obviously I'm sure with SEC Media Days and some of the national storylines, I have no doubt that Texas and Oklahoma is also going to,
crazy stuff always happens in the summer. I mean, that's when the Texas OU. I remember Brent Zwerneman, he tweeted, "Hey, OU and Texas are trying to join the SEC," and then within 24 hours it was happening. So that was just out of nowhere in the summer. So let's see what kind of storyline comes up.
Know what the trend is? I think anytime you go on vacation, something crazy seems to happen.
Yes, that's true. I haven't had to cover any of these things. All right, well, if you guys want excitement, let's start a Brian vacation pool. Let's
start a Brian.
Send me wherever you want. Send me in the world wherever you want, and we'll
send me to a beach somewhere out of wherever. And you can just have that covered, and the storylines will just be, we'll see what happens next. It'll be something completely out of left field, just like that was but no, and I think you'll take a vacation out of it, right? You get
for sure. I'll go somewhere maybe mid-July, and Nick Saban will just retire. Just something crazy. Just he steps down.
Mid-July, you'll go and all of a sudden, Texas and OU are joining this fall. We're
yeah,
redoing the whole
exactly.
schedule or something. It'll be some wacky thing like that. And then the other thing, we will hear from Jimbo Fisher again as well at the Texas high school football coaches meetings, which also take place in July, right before he goes to SEC Media Days. And obviously, there were noteworthy storylines there last year as well, when that was where Nick Saban kind of said his bit about Bryce Young getting the NIL deal and all that at the Texas high school um, football coaches meeting. So
Is that when Jimbo
that's
said
also
A&M was going to kick Alabama's ass, or was that at a coach's
no, that
meeting?
was earlier. That was earlier.
Okay.
That was at the
It's funny that we just because of all this, we've forgotten that, like
yeah,
that
like
just last year he said, yeah, we're going to kick their ass.
and yeah, and we haven't got that golf battle. I think, um Bleacher Report and TNT have obviously been doing these match shows. We need one of Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban both mic'd up doing a match.
Oh
And
yeah.
they can pick one of their teammate. Maybe we can get Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka to be teammates as well, and just get a hate fest going in for a match of those two playing each other. But no, it's gonna be a very newsworthy month. I'm sure there'll be a lot to talk about with guys zeroing in on decisions. Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban, I'm sure, saying something that'll get it all up. And SEC Media Days will certainly not be boring. And if there's a quiet day, well, Mike Leach will just take care of that and say something that'll get everybody all right.
Hey,
Or Lane Kiffin.
Lane Kiffin. I was like, let's not leave Lane Kiffin out of
Lane
this.
Kiffin's not going to sit out. Lane Kiffin's just chomping at the bit to be able to join this NIL conversation. He'll have something to say at some point.
Yeah, what was it that didn't SEC, I guess, told him to cancel that radio
Yeah, he
interview
supposed to
that he
go on
had
the
after the whole Jimbo and Saban deal? It's like, who knows
yeah.
what you're going to say to add fuel to this fire? So
Yeah, let's sit you on the sidelines for a couple days and keep you out of this game. That's the last thing we need. So, he's always due. I mean, I think Ole Miss just got a commit a couple weeks ago out of somebody out of Tennessee, and Lane Kiffin was like, "Well, I guess not everybody from that state hates me."
Oh gosh,
he's just good. He's just good for a comment somewhere along the line. So, sure to be an exciting month, and we'll see. Obviously, coming up, Texas A&M baseball. We'll see how long that runs. We're recording this on Tuesday. We'll see if their run lasts longer than that. So, I think A&M, after beating Texas over the weekend, blowing out Texas actually. A&M fans would love nothing more than to beat Notre Dame. So that would pretty much cap off a great couple of days. So with that, we're going to go ahead and sign off for the day. We'll be back next week, as always, on Monday for another edition of the Gig 'Em 24/7 Sports Podcast with the latest recruiting and football news as the season gets closer. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, on YouTube, and Spotify to get all the podcasts. Be sure to give us a 5-star review and sign up on YouTube to get a notification every time a new podcast drops. Same for Spotify and iTunes. And with that, Brian, enjoy the rest of the week. We'll have a lot covered on the site with recruiting updates and all and plenty more. Have a good week, everybody.